Joining us now on the Picks Four Polls podcast, we've got Augustana College offensive tackle Cain Johnson in the house. Follow him on Twitter at Cain Johnson17. He's a local Illinois guy, but he's going to be talking to us about his college experience and prep for the 2025 draft. Cain, how's it going? Thanks so much for hopping on this thing and making this happen on such short notice.
Oh, it's good. Thank you for having me.
All right, let's get right into this thing. You know, it is interesting, the world of college sports, right? So a lot of guys will start off at one school, go to another school. They will kind of hit the transfer portal 2 to 3 times over whatever 4 to 5 year period. But you're unique in the sense that you kind of stayed at Augustana for your whole college career. I mean, why decide to stick around? And then on top of that, coming out of high school, what made Augustana such a great place for you, like a natural fit?
So first, coming out of high school, my senior year, it was COVID towards the end, so it kind of messed up a lot of the recruiting. But first and foremost, like Augustana, they were the first school to recruit me, come visit me my junior year of high school. My position coach there, offensive line coach, Coach Ragone, I had a really good relationship with him throughout the whole recruiting process, and I thought that was the best fit. It was a family feel, and that's one thing I like to put first is family. Also, it was an hour away, so it was far enough where I could kind of live on my own, but close enough where I could see family, or my family could see every game, and then kind of staying there. Augustana is a second home to me. Like I said, the coaches, the players, I'm so grateful. Like I went to Augustana because I met a lot of my close best friends there, and they'll be my close friends for the rest of my life. So yeah, and wanting to maybe transfer out fifth year, I thought about it, but then I didn't, because at the end of the day, I went there to get my academics, play football, and like was previously mentioned, like on my social media, I had contact with the Bears and Vikings my senior year. So there wasn't really a need for me to leave, if those teams at the upper level were able to find me at Augustana. So that's what kind of led me to stay too.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing, is that if you just stick with the process, I mean, you're going to evidently end up getting the results, which is clearly kind of what you did. Let's get into some of your daily routine here, because you and I were obviously texting back and forth yesterday, and you kind of mentioned how I believe it's like Monday to Friday or something, you're working out like 1 to 5 p.m. I mean, it sounds like you're constantly trying to get better, always in the weight room doing some sort of recovery. Take us inside what that daily process is like.
No, yeah. So essentially, I'm working out with Acceleration right now. They've been doing a great job with my training and nutrition and everything. Shout out to Mike, JR, and Ryan. Yeah, so essentially, like meal wise, it's like the nutritionist, they got me on like a meal plan. So like meal wise, I wake up, egg whites, ground beef, and oatmeal. Fruit smoothie for lunch and some chicken and rice for dinner, and then essentially like Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday is a lot of the combine stuff, a lot of running, sprinkling those days, a lot of the bench days, getting ready for that 225. Wednesdays are a lot of like recovery, and then Saturdays are more like offensive line specific drills. And then after that would be like a little lift. But it's been a lot. It's been going good, though. Been going great. Like I said, shout out to Mike. He's been in there with us day in and day out, getting us 1% better every day.
Does it get boring having to eat the same stuff for breakfast every day? I mean, do you ever wish you could have like a cheat day or something, or are you even allowed a cheat day?
Ryan probably wouldn't want to hear this, but cheat day, here and there maybe, but nah, the breakfast isn't the kicker. It's the dinner, the chicken and rice. I mean, I've talked to him. He spices up a little bit, with vegetables and everything. But I feel like the dinner, more importantly, is like it's like real bland, just chicken and rice. But gotta do what you gotta do.
I mean, hey, I feel like as long as you season that chicken as well as the rice, you can kind of change things up. But like, uh, I mean, I guess what's your cheat day meal? Like, if you are allowed a cheat day meal, like, what would you have?
Man, I don't think I can go wrong with Chick-fil-A.
Okay, yeah. See, I'm a history well, one of my backgrounds is history guy, right? So fun little fact here that you probably didn't know, okay? The original Chick-fil-A sandwiches were sold at Waffle House. So like the guy who invented Chick-fil-A sandwich, he actually sold them at Waffle House at first. Genius marketing concept. But getting back to the football side of things here, you play offensive line. It is one of the most underrated or perhaps the most underrated position on the field. Talk about the mental side of the game. I mean, how are you preparing yourself to go from one play to the next, but then also recognizing that, yeah, sometimes football is the type of game where you're going to have a really good play and you're going to have a really bad play. But whatever the outcome of the previous play is, you just have to keep going no matter what.
No, yeah, no, that's a great point. So yeah, just like what my coach Ragon, what we implemented and what we talked about at Augie is just bad plays are gonna happen. Stuff hits the fan, but you gotta persevere, go on to the next play. You can't think about it, can't dwell on it, because if you do that, then it's just a domino effect, and it'll just carry on throughout the game. So can't get too high in your highs, can't get too low in your lows. Just guys stay consistent with everything you do.
So, in terms of the running game, the run scheme, I mean, what type of scheme do you feel like you fit in? Which type of scheme do you prefer to run? Like an inside zone scheme, an outside zone scheme, or would you just prefer a gap scheme?
I like outside zone. I like running. I like to show my athletic ability. Running, getting up to the second level, and those that type of side.
So have you done a lot of like homework on some of these teams around the league that maybe run outside zone as being potential fits for you, just in the sense of like, all right, it'd be pretty cool to go play for this team because they run the type of scheme that just allows me to sort of not have to pass for all the time and then specifically get out there in space. And what's that process been like?
So I haven't really necessarily been studying that type of deal just because I know like at the next level, a lot of teams it's a lot of spread, a lot of pass dominant. So I feel like, any scheme I get put in, I feel like I'll be able to flourish, be able to learn and be able to pick up things. So I haven't really thought about that side of the nature just because I've just been kind of, training myself to like be open to everything, if that answers your question.
That definitely makes sense. But I have to ask you this. So what's your favorite run play? Is it like power counter
I,
like which
I
one
like
is it?
I like counter, especially I probably won't be playing tackle, at the next level, a little on the shorter end, but back in college when I played tackle, counter, man, high knee gallop coming down on that D tackle up to that backside backer, man, I love that opening holes.
That is, I mean, counter's one of my favorite plays to run as well, just because it seems like whatever it is that happens, there's always going to be something that's open. But, getting into your strengths as a player, right? Like, what do you think you do really well in terms of just being out there and always making something good happen on the football field?
I feel like my pass protection, able to stay in front of guys, my grip strength, I got a little bit of longer arms for how tall I am or how short I am, I guess you could say. So just really, latching on to guys and staying in front of them. I feel like that's kind of my bigger strength.
So you had mentioned that you probably don't think you're going to be playing tackle at the next level. Have you played guard extensively throughout college or high school to the point where you feel like, hey, I'd be real comfortable kicking inside if I really need to?
Oh no, most definitely, yeah. So I played center back in high school, and then the past like few bowl games I've been in, I've been playing center guard, and it's felt right. It ain't nothing too different than tackle. It's just a little less space, which is awesome, and then yeah, really not too much difference except center though. Center, is basically the QB of the O line. A lot of moving parts. Got to call it the points, make sure everyone's on the same page and everything. So that might be a little different, but nothing I can't handle.
So what's that process like for you as an offensive tackle, when you're out there on an island by yourself, but then you have to basically work in tandem with the guards and the center in order to kind of identify the calls and know what specifically to do, but also, sometimes you have to maybe change up the protection at the line of scrimmage. I mean, what's that process like and how do you guys work to get that down?
One thing, you just got to have a really good relationship with your guys on the line. Your front five. Everyone's got to be on the same page. Back in college, we'd have our film sessions, but outside of that, we'd get together, watch film extensively. We see this blitz or we see this type of formation lined up. We think he's coming here, so it's just really having everybody on the same page that'll make everything a lot more easier once game time comes.
So, how many hours a week do you guys maybe spend on those adjustments in terms of in the film room to making sure that you guys have everything down for the game that week?
So we usually did every day after practice for about like hour and a half leading up to the game.
That is good stuff there. I mean, I know the college game is just so different in the sense of it's like, hey, you've got practice in the morning, then a lift, then you're going to class, then you're coming back in the afternoon after lunch to go ahead and, finish up whatever it is you weren't able to get done in the morning. But in terms of going up against some of these edge rushers, right? Maybe take us inside. What types of edge rushers do you prefer to go against? Do you prefer to go against like the longer, lankier guys, or do you prefer to go against, guys who can easily convert speed to power, or maybe guys who like will only use a club rip move or like a bull rush move?
No, it doesn't really, I guess say matter with that. It's just whoever is, in front of me, I'm gonna, block them to the best of my ability. One thing I will say, kind of running into, the difficulty wise, when you got a big 6'3", 6'4" guy, 240, 250, running like a 4'8", 4'7" coming off the edge. I feel like that's, a bit more tougher, trying to block that. But really, just got to take one play at a time with blocking any type of build at the defensive end position.
How do you go about studying the guy that you're going to block every single week? I mean, on film, right? Like, what specifically are you looking for? Are you looking at his eyes, his hands, his feet? What are you trying to do to kind of note his tendencies down?
Yeah, so essentially, like for run game, I kind of look and see, like how backers are playing versus where they're lined up, seeing if there's going to be a merge or they're going to blitz off the edge or something like that. Really just watching his feet, see how his feet are lined up, see if he's more closed, more open, he's more shifted in, more shifted out on certain down and distances. Pass rushing wise, watching, little hitches, little tells, if they, try to pre-plan it, their moves, things of that nature.
So, as an offensive lineman, I mean, you mentioned the word pass. I have to ask you this. Take us inside how you developed chemistry with your quarterback at Augustana, right? Because it's not just something that started from like day one, like you guys shook hands and it was like, oh, we're now going to be buddies. Like, what was the process of developing chemistry like? And then why is that so important for the O line and the quarterback as a whole?
It's so important, to have that chemistry between the quarterback and the O line. Because at the end of the day, the O line is protecting the quarterback, and the quarterback's making the O line look good. So relationships got to be good on both ends. I know my quarterback back at Augie, what he do would if we gave up no sacks during the game, he'd take us all out to dinner anywhere we wanted on him, all five of us. So that was kind of an incentive, to make sure we were protecting him and doing our job, and make sure he was doing his job and making us look great.
Where'd you guys end up going for dinner? Was that like one of you guys deciding in terms of like you get to rotate, hey, we're going here this week, here next week? Or was it just, all right, we're going wherever we feel like it?
So usually it was like up to the upperclassmen. So we had a group of guys my true senior year that were fifth years that kind of, did all the choosing. But, this past year, since I was the old head, I got to really choose wherever we went, which, I'd like to say it was some pretty great choices.
So where'd you end up picking? I mean, you got to tell our listeners.
So essentially, we went to a place called Steel Plow. It's in the Quad Cities. We went to another place called Central Standard. They got really good buffalo tater tots. So I don't know if they have them anymore, but back when we were there, they're pretty good. Just things of those.
So you're saying like good food. All right. I mean, you mentioned the Quad Cities. Augustana's in Illinois, and your hometown is originally in Western Illinois, right? So
No, yeah.
I gotta ask you this, right? Like, have you ever been to the city of Chicago? What do you know about it? What do you know about the Bears franchise? Because I feel like, and I know this is kind of a weird question to ask, but I feel like it gets to a point where you get out like far enough away from the city of Chicago, and you're meeting someone that is like a a Rams fan because like St. Louis is nearby, or you're meeting someone that's like a Packers fan or a Chiefs fan or something?
No, yeah. So essentially, I was actually born up here and lived up here a little bit before I moved down to Galesburg. So I've been up here. Got to get the birth certificate downtown. But yeah, my whole family, Chicago Bear fans, diehard. So growing up, watching Charles Tillman, Devin Hester, Urlacher, Lance Briggs, Peppers. Like, I mean, you know, it's just diehard Bears family over here. So.
Would it be cool to potentially get a chance to play for essentially your hometown team? I mean, what do you feel like that experience would be like for you?
Man, it feels surreal, like a dream come true. Like I need someone to pinch me or something. But at the end of the day, if they would choose to do that, like I'd give everything I got. I would add value to the team, and just bring everybody up and make everyone else around me better.
That is definitely awesome. I mean, I will say they love their Ryan Poles loves his local guys, so you never know, what that could include. But I mean, I gotta ask you, right? Growing up, you mentioned a whole bunch of Bears legends. Do you have like a favorite player from that era, or just like a favorite Bears player in general? Maybe an offensive lineman that you try to model your game after?
Um, there's one in particular player that I really loved. That necessarily wasn't an offensive lineman, but I feel like his career obviously got cut too short. Was Johnny Knox? I feel like he was on the rise to become a really really great wide receiver, and that was kind of one of the guys I watched a lot growing up when I was younger.
Yeah, Johnny Knox, obviously a complete speedster. Unfortunate way that his career ended, but I mean, again, he still seems to really be a fan favorite. So here is one that I have for you. Outside of just Bears players, right? Are there any NFL players in general from the 31 other franchises? And again, if you wanted to name a Bears player, you could as well. Any offensive lineman that you try to model your game after, and then why specifically do you try to model your game after those guys?
I probably, I feel like a lot of O linemen would say this person is Trent Williams. Just the way he's conducting himself throughout the league, through these many years, in the pass game, really stonewalling guys, and even in the run game, getting up to the second level, moving guys out the way, even they got him in motion a couple times, coming down the line, blowing up that defensive end. So really, I feel like he's kind of like the pinnacle of an O lineman. I feel like he's kind of really well rounded and has everything going for him. So I just try to pick up stuff that he does and try to implement it into my game.
How much Trent Williams film would you say you watched then, like throughout, let's just say a month, right? Like an hour to 2 hours as you're trying to like figure out, all right, how can I take something from him, add it to my game?
Now, especially a few hours for sure. Especially right before games. That night before, I'd be watching a lot of film, videos, just kind of get my mind right.
That is really good stuff there. So I got a couple more for you here. I think the first one to me is this, that like football is the type of game where you're always going to have some sort of memories, right? So throughout high school or college, are there any memories that you had, give me a handful of them where they were these sort of life-changing moments, these moments that you're always going to remember no matter what?
Yeah, so essentially my first memory was my junior year. When I first switched over to O-line, we played Wheaton College. They ranked like 15 or 14 for D3 at that time. And I actually have it's the first play I sent you, but it was a screen. And, I was running down, going out there, and I started to slow down. And I realized the DB or the safety, he didn't see me at all. So, eyes got real big, couldn't believe it. Laid my hit on him, and I feel like that hit kind of propelled me into the scene of the CCIW, which was able to get me 3 consecutive all conferences in a row. Another story was when we beat Washington University out of St. Louis my true senior year, first time in our team history that we beat them. So that was just a really great feeling, and that propelled us into a bowl game. Played against UW Platteville, which was an awesome experience as well.
What was that experience playing against Platteville like? I mean, I'm asking, right, because like some of the guys that I coach with right now are originally from Platteville, so I gotta know. And they were at Platteville, I think, last year, so I have to know.
No, yeah, they're a really great team, really well coached. Went up against Justin Blazik off the edge. He was a dude for sure. It was cool though, just playing competition outside of the CCIW.
So let's talk about the CCIW competition. I mean, what was that experience for you like week in and week out in terms of just going ahead and having to prep? Was it definitely a major change when you were up against a team that wasn't a CCIW team?
Yeah, so essentially you can't count any CCIW team out. They're all good. They all got players and they all got dudes. So yeah, really, like every team in the CCIW, they're gonna have a dude on the team that you have to game plan for, and that's just how it is because how tough of the competition it is in the conference.
That is awesome. Last one for you here. You spent 5 years at Augustana. I mean, what do you feel like is the biggest lesson that you learned in terms of lessons about football, but also lessons about life?
Whatever it is in life, whether it's football, a job, whatever it is, just keep pushing and keep going. Just try to see the light at the end of the tunnel because you never know what will happen, and you never know what opportunities will arise after that. So that's just one thing, just really sticking through whatever you're doing and see it through.
So, where can people follow you on Twitter as well as Instagram? Where can people kind of keep up with your journey over the next few months and next few years?
So you can look me up, Cain Johnson on Instagram. It's CRJ_23, and then Cain Johnson 17 on Twitter. And yeah, I keep up pretty well on my Instagram. I've been trying to get on Twitter more, or X, what they call it now. But yeah.
Kane, this has been awesome. Thanks so much for hopping on. Keep in touch. If there's anything we can ever do for you at Bear Report, don't hesitate to reach out. You know where to go ahead and find me. I mean, best of luck to you. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.